Thanks for staying with us here on The Real Story. With the short legislative session already speeding by and the chambers hitting the floor this past week, hoping to pass as much as possible before May, hundreds of community-based nonprofit services are back asking for more from the state budget, as they've contracted with the state to provide services for decades now. Joining us now to talk about it, Gian-Carl Casa, President and CEO of Connecticut's Nonprofit Alliance, and Tracey Walker, CEO of Journey Found. Tracey, Gian-Carl, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. So, Gian-Carl, we'll start with you. We've had you on the show before. Happy to have you back. But, I know for you it might not be as happy because you're back at the Capitol asking for some of the things you've asked for a while. This has really been a funding battle at the Capitol. You didn't get what you asked for in the state budget last year, and you say you're struggling against the state spending cap here. Just give me a little quick background. Tell me about how we got, to this point that we're at this legislative session.
Sure. I think the number to remember is that since 2007, nonprofits are 32% behind in terms of their buying power with the money that they get from the state. And there's not one entity, there's not a person, not an organization that can do the same amount of work with 30% less income, let alone the fact that nonprofits are dealing with ever-increasing burdens. So they really are behind. We're really, to sum it up, we are really just asking the wealthiest state in the nation to stand by and help the people who need it.
And Tracey, we'll talk in a little bit about your role as CEO of Journey Found, but you've been working in the Connecticut nonprofit world and you've been testifying for funding adjustments for a really, really long time now. So obviously a lot has changed in the way our government operates, but you say not much has changed when it comes to underfunded contracts for nonprofit organizations, right?
It's true. The first year I testified on behalf of nonprofits for more money was 1988. And so here we are all these years later, and I'm still testifying for more money for nonprofits. Yeah. And, we've really appreciated the small increases that we've gotten in recent sessions, but it's just, it's not enough. It's not enough when we have to pay our bills like everyone else has to pay the bills. There's inflation. We're property owners at Journey Home. We provide homes, so we have all of those same expenses. And we're really just asking for a reasonable compromise. We don't expect the state to not pay debts. We don't expect them to not pay other sectors, but we want to make a reasonable compromise.
And speaking about your organization, tell me about the services that you offer. And as you both have mentioned, nonprofits are dealing with the same things every industry is dealing with, short staffing, increased costs, inflation. So what are the community's needs that you're seeing right now?
So Journey Found provides small group homes for adults with intellectual disabilities throughout north, central, and southeastern Connecticut. So we're a 24/7 operation. So when we have to make our dollars go farther, the things that get taken away are cutting into gas money and activity money. I can't reduce staffing. I can't say I'm only going to cover the house 20 hours out of 24. Right. And our staffing is critical for the adults with very challenging needs that we serve. We have to provide the food and the utilities. We have overhead costs. And last year was the first time we got increases that would address any of those things. In a very long time. Prior to that, they were wage increases, which is great. Our staff need every single penny, but we also have to be able to maintain organizations and maintain the infrastructure in which those services need to happen.
And you said since you're a 24/7 year-round type of nonprofit, as you're providing those small group homes, have you had, when you talk about reducing services, since you say, you can't just decide to do 20 hours and cut some hours in staffing, have you had to shut down any of these locations?
We have. We've closed 3 group homes, reducing our total census by 7. Unfortunately, fortunately, we were able to do it without anyone losing a home because we had some people, pass away from natural causes or end up in nursing homes and do that. But we also had to give up another home because we could not afford to operate that house. We also have not been able to venture out into new services or take take on new people because we don't have the staff to provide the one-to-one staffing required for those very high level of need folks.
Right. And Gian-Carl, looking at the bigger picture here, you're asking for $186 million. We've talked a lot about the fiscal guardrails and how that's really holding back the state surplus and keeping the legislature's belt really tight as they look at budget adjustments. But if you don't get that money, if that doesn't get funded again, what happens to the people you represent and these nonprofits? What's at stake here?
I think Tracey described it well. The money that the state gives to nonprofits is so that they can provide services. Without the money, they can't have people, they can't hire people, they can't pay their rent. Without those things, they can't open their doors, and people who need treatment for addiction, for instance, homeless people who need shelter, kids who need therapeutic homes, and so many more people rely on nonprofits. Their access is being limited because the state isn't paying the cost of providing those services.
And when these nonprofits aren't getting as much as they say they need from the state, what do you look for in terms of maybe other pools of funding? Is this something where you ask from the community? Do you outreach for help? What does that look like?
Really, only the state of Connecticut can provide enough funding to sustain the kind of services that people depend on. Contracts that nonprofits have with the state are at about $2 billion. They are a big industry that employ about 118,000 people in Connecticut, an important part of the economy. When they're being shortchanged, and this is the 7th straight year that the state has had a surplus, they're still 32% behind. When they're being shortchanged, people aren't getting services they should be getting. There's no reason that they're not.
And quickly here, to take it out of Connecticut, we see other states that have similar contracts with their nonprofits that have maybe fallen apart a little bit in a similar situation, who have said they haven't been funded for, or have been underfunded, I should say, for a lot of years. Are you taking that information to the Capitol at all? What are you seeing from maybe some of our states around the country that are in a similar situation?
Yes, certainly. Just to give one example, the state just completed a study of Medicaid rates paid for behavioral health care. And they compared Connecticut to, I believe, 5 other comparable states. The state is paying less than 50% of what those other states are paying on average. We're way behind.
And Tracey, I know this funding gap, as you mentioned, has already forced some closures, some service reductions so far at Journey Found. But can you, tell us at all how this is impacting the people you help? Because obviously it's impacting these nonprofit workers, and we've seen nonprofit workers rallying in the last year across the state. But the people who receive these services, how has this impacted them?
Well, people with intellectual disabilities are very reliant on staff to help them live their lives in the way they want to choose, and to enjoy the same freedoms that you and I enjoy. They need staff with them. So if there isn't enough staff and there isn't enough money to have adequate transportation costs and adequate activity money, virtually they become prisoners in their own homes, because all they can do is stay in their house. So it's limiting them in ways that you and I would never be limited. And it really it takes away their freedom, it takes away their independence, it takes away their ability to participate in the community. They engage in the community, and our ability to help take them out helps them be active citizens, taxpayers, and helping with the economy of the community, just like when we're out and about too. So the ripple effect is very large.
We've talked about, testifying at the state capitol, which is a huge part of our legislature here in Connecticut. With our, last minute or two here, what are the conversations looking like for you with lawmakers? What's the message you're really trying to get across to them? We can start with you, Tracey.
So, it's been a long time, a really, really long time. And the state of Connecticut made a commitment a long time ago in the 80s to move services into the community for 2 reasons. It's what's better for people, and it's what's better economically to be able to do it. So they really need to follow through on that commitment. We're not something that can stop midway with no ill effect. And the cost benefit of analysis is what's the cost of not funding us is really important because it's going to be really, really high.
I think it's important for legislators to make nonprofits and, importantly, the people they serve, make them the priority as they're making budget decisions. We don't get into where the money should come from. The state has the money. Again, it's the 7th straight year of surplus. We just want to talk about the need, about the people who work for nonprofits, the people who depend on nonprofits. And I think our message is 32% behind inflation is way behind, and it's not enough.
And we'll be continuing to follow the budget battle and these discussions at the session this, at the Capitol this session. But thank you both again so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
That does it for us here on The Real Story. But if you want to watch these segments again, you can head to our website at fox61.com or download the free Fox 61 News app and watch The Real Story every Sunday at 10 a.m. right here on Fox 61 or streaming on Fox 61 Plus. Have a great rest of your morning.